Admiral Kethvar of the Hegemony watched the tactical display with growing unease. The human delegation sat across from him in the sterile conference chamber aboard his flagship, their expressions unreadable behind those peculiar features that evolution had carved into their species. 3 standard galactic cycles had passed since humanity had been granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council, and in that time, they had proven to be disappointing. Their military consisted of crude chemical rockets and primitive kinetic weapons. Their largest vessels barely qualified as frigates by galactic standards. When the hegemony had demanded tribute from the newer species, as was tradition, humanity had meekly complied, offering raw materials and basic manufacturing in exchange for protection. The Council grows impatient with your species' lack of contribution to our defense initiatives, Kethvar stated, his mandibles clicking with authority. The Void Hunters have been spotted 3 sectors away. We require more substantial support. The human ambassador, a female called Sarah Chen, exchanged glances with her military advisor. Admiral, we understand your concerns. However, we believe there may be some misconceptions about our capabilities. Kethvar's secondary eyes dilated in what his species considered barely contained amusement. Misconceptions? We have observed your fleets, human. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your weapons are what you've seen, interrupted the human military advisor, a grizzled man named Colonel Martinez, is our public fleet, our civilian protection force. The chamber fell silent except for the ambient hum of the ship's systems. Kethvar's confidence wavered as he processed the implication. Public fleet? Ambassador Chen leaned forward slightly. Admiral, did you really think a species that evolved through constant warfare that fought itself across an entire planet before reaching the stars would show all its cards to potential enemies? Before Kethvar could respond, his communications officer burst into the chamber, his forearms gesticulating frantically. Admiral, emergency contacts on all frequencies. Unknown vessels decloaking throughout the system. The main display flickered to life, and Kethvar felt his blood chill. Where moments before there had been empty space, now hung ships that defied everything he knew about human technology. They were massive, some rivaling hegemony dreadnoughts, but their design was unlike anything in the galactic databases. Sharp angles caught starlight like predatory teeth and energy readings that made his instruments scream warnings about power levels that should have been impossible. Impossible, Kethvar whispered. These vessels, they're not in any of our intelligence reports. That's because they've been operating in dark space for the past 50 years, Colonel Martinez said calmly. While you've been watching our merchant marines and patrol boats, we've been building, preparing. The tactical officer's voice cracked over the intercom. Admiral, we're reading energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. These ships, they're using technologies we don't recognize. Dark matter manipulation, exotic matter containment, quantum field generators. Ambassador Chen stood, her movement somehow more menacing than any threat Kethvar had ever witnessed. You see, Admiral, humans have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. For 3 years we've been speaking very softly indeed. On the display, more ships materialized, sleek destroyers that moved like liquid mercury, carrier vessels that launched swarms of fighters too fast for conventional tracking, and in the center of the formation, a ship so massive it seemed to bend space around itself. The UHSF Prometheus, Martinez said, noting Kethvar's stare. Our first Dark Fleet dreadnought, 17 kilometers of humanity's finest work, powered by controlled antimatter reactions, armed with weapons that can crack moons, and protected by shields that exist in 11 dimensions. Kethvar's legs gave out and he collapsed into his command chair. How many ships? In this system, about 300. Chen's smile was razor thin. Across human space? That's classified. But let's just say that every world we've colonized, every asteroid mining operation, every peaceful research station, they've all been busy. The communications array erupted with incoming transmissions from across the galaxy. Hegemony forces reporting massive human fleet movements. Void hunter scouting parties going silent as they encountered ships that shouldn't exist. Trade routes being politely but firmly redirected by vessels that registered on sensors like small moons. "You've been preparing for war," Kethvar said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We've been preparing for survival," Chen corrected. "Humans learned long ago that peace is only possible when you're too dangerous to attack, when the choice isn't between war and peace but between peace and mutual annihilation." The Prometheus moved closer to the hegemony flagship, and Kethvar could see weapon ports opening along its hull, like the eyes of some vast predator. His tactical display showed targeting solutions appearing on every hegemony vessel in the system, solutions that had been calculated before his sensors had even detected the human ships. "What do you want?" he asked. "Recognition," Martinez said simply. "An end to tribute demands, respect for human sovereignty, and perhaps most importantly, a new understanding of humanity's role in this galaxy." Ambassador Chen moved to the viewport, gazing out at the assembled fleet. "For 3 years you've seen us as primitives playing at galactic civilization, useful for raw materials and simple labor, but hardly worth considering as equals." She turned back to face Kethvar, and he saw something in her eyes that made his species' most primal instincts scream warnings. "That was a mistake, Admiral. Humans don't do anything halfway. When we decided to join the galactic community, we didn't just build a few ships and hope for the best. We spent 50 years preparing for every possible scenario, including this one." The display updated again, showing new contacts throughout hegemony space. Stations that had been thought abandoned revealing themselves as armed installations. Asteroid fields lighting up with hidden shipyards. Even the space lanes themselves seemed to bristle with previously undetected sensors and defensive platforms. "The galaxy just learned that humanity isn't some primitive species stumbling into space," Chen said. "We're a civilization that spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war, and we've had 3 years to study every military doctrine, every weapon system, every tactical philosophy the galaxy has to offer." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "And then we built something better." Kethvar stared at the displays showing the impossible fleet, his mind struggling to process the implications. In a single moment, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. The humans hadn't just revealed ships. They had revealed that everything the galactic powers thought they knew about Earth's children was a carefully crafted lie. "What happens now?" he asked. Ambassador Chen's smile was almost gentle. "Now, Admiral, we negotiate as equals." Outside the viewport, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as humanity stepped out of the shadows and into the light. No longer the galaxy's newest members, but potentially its most dangerous inhabitants.